Hey everyone, welcome back to the Self Betterment Project. I want to thank you guys for tuning in on this week's episode. We're still continuing on with season 1 and the last episode of the philosophy of habits. Now, if you're new to this place, welcome to the podcast that helps you change your life one episode at a time. If you really like the podcast, you can always support it on patreon.com/thisisad. By the end of this podcast, you will always come out to be more stronger, tougher than the Man of Steel, Superman himself, or money back guarantee. And honestly, by the end of it all, I hope you guys got some sort of value out of this. I hope it at least made you rethink or wonder a little bit more about your own self-betterment project in your life. Welcome to episode 4 of season 1 of the Self Betterment Project. So grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the podcast. Since this is the last episode for this first segment of the season, I wanted to just share my experience on what I've learned from my personal experience as the philosophy of habit. You know, how has the philosophy of habit played a role in my own life? So I hope you guys are doing well, and I am more than happy to see that you've tuned in to the podcast. I am always innovating and building on the podcast, as well as future plannings with this podcast as well. So a lot of development has been going on, like it always does. You know, we're all growing here. We're all building everything around here. But this month has been really eye-opening for me. This month has been really the month that I truly think that gave me the push I needed to finally look at my life and really grow up of sorts, or at least like understand the importance of many things in my life. You know, I have never really seen my life with such intent or with such care. You know, it's kind of like we all kind of know that eating vegetables is right, but none of us really feel the importance. We just kind of know it. So, as I said it in one of our podcast episodes, I'm internalizing it. That's what the word is apparently. But rather in my words, it's basically that I'm understanding it. And habits, as I know, is honestly the very first thing I've ever started studying or looking into when I even made the Self Betterment Project. I actually started about habits, negative habits, because we all had those, and then studied a little bit more about addiction and then hormones, and then from there it kind of spiraled on. You know the story. But the philosophy of habit has always been eye-opening for me. It's always been something that I've really been interested in. And I think ever since then, now is truly the time that I'm really growing. A lot of my habits that I've been building or trying to build has given me so much experience. And, you know, habit building is never really easy, but it's very, very important. And I'm learning to really work hard and really embrace the grinding mentality. You know what I mean? Just really put the work out there, because I know what I want to make out of my life. I know where my importance and priorities are. I know how to do that. And that's why at this stage of my life, habits and things that I've learned about habits, I honestly think that I couldn't have started this season with this at any better time. Like, this is the perfect time that I could have started it, because there's a lot that's been going on with me, and I can share so much of my experience. It's kind of like talking to you at the same time, really sharing how each aspect of the season breaks down into my own life. And I hope all of you are learning as much as I am, because there's a lot to learn about when it comes to habits. And you know, one of the biggest mottos I have when it comes to habit building, or the necessity of habit building, is very simple. It's the most simplest thing in the world, okay? Long story short, it's basically what you would look like if you were to imagine, in a perfect case scenario, just the most perfect world in 10 years, where would you be in your imagination? From there, you just break the tasks down and make those a habit. And that's it. That's literally my internal quote motto, if you will, for the philosophy of my habit. It's literally something that builds you, period. as much as anything else helps, it's your habits that truly makes or breaks you in this life. If you don't have the habits that you need to build yourself a certain way, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter when you do something else or you get something else. It doesn't matter. You need to have the foundational core of your habits. One of the biggest habits I've always had is just always striving and knowing that I could be better. That's why I even made this entire podcast, and it is always a part of me. A lot of things in your life, you can look at it and just be a little self-aware. I'm not saying you have to change anything. We're not changing anything to ourselves or anything like that in this season, okay? We're simply just being aware, and we're just having a discussion. We're just having a conversation. That's all. There's no need to tamper with yourself. There's no need to look at yourself and say, oh, I have all these bad habits, or I have all these good habits, and we should all try to build. Just relax, have a cup of coffee. All we're really doing in this season and in this first month of this season is simply understanding a little bit about habits and just taking a look at yourself and just being aware. Day by day, you will naturally come to be aware. These things take a lot of time to build, and that's why I think we should start now. We should start with just really looking at ourselves and just being aware of what we do and why we do them. Sometimes, maybe, who knows, you drink coffee when you're anxious, right? I used to do that when I was back in my university days. I would get anxious or something would put me under pressure. I would always just go to coffee, that sugar, that rush, that caffeine. But over the years, when, I started looking at myself, I just simply became aware of myself first before I even tried to tamper with anything. Don't try to tamper with yourself, especially not right now, and that's completely fine. So take a look at yourself. I encourage you to just simply be aware of yourself throughout the day. That's all. Just have an open-minded awareness. And as truly this season goes on, because this is technically the introductory month, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I've been reading this really insightful book that has been really eye-opening for me when it comes to the first stages of habit building or even your life. It talks about leadership. It's a book called The Emotional Intelligence of Focus, right? And I'll talk about this later in the future episodes, but it's been really eye-opening for me, especially in this part of my life. So when every day goes by, you don't have to focus really hard. I'm just simply saying, just when you do something, when your body does something, just take notice. That's all that really is. Because from here on out, this foundational awareness will really pull together everything that we talk about in the future podcasts of this season. So it's very important that you just simply take aware. Sometimes you do this. Why? Sometimes when something happens, you do this. Sometimes when you see something, you feel a certain way. Where's that feeling coming from? Is it a tightness in your chest, in your throat? Maybe you have a headache. Who knows? Sometimes somebody's talking all the time and you just become aware of the street sounds and not their voice. It's amazing what the human body is capable of. And all I'm saying is that as you become aware, a lot of things that you have never seen about yourself comes to light. And that is truly eye-opening. We're not going to analyze anything yet. We're just simply collecting information by being aware. We're not trying to change ourselves yet. We're just simply collecting information by being aware. And I am telling you, it is going to be one of the most strangest kinds of days you will encounter when you just simply notice yourself and you wonder why you did that. And you will start seeing yourself in such a different light. I hope it's a positive one, but again, we will always come to our negative habits too. And when we do, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Quite frankly, I like to believe that when you actually see the negative in you, that's a really good sign, because now you can actually move forward and better yourself. You can't better yourself if there's nothing to make better, right? So in order to make something better, you must see the problem or see the something that you don't like. Maybe it's not part of your goal, it's not part of your direction, but your body and mind still does it for some reason. Being aware. Awareness. One of the key, most important things I have learned personally. I've read about, and I still continue to hear, is the most important thing of self-development, of any kind of development, career, relationship, or just even the peace of mind, or just even literally anything. So I encourage you to just be aware. That's what this season is really hitting first. If you can't be aware, we can talk about habits all day. We can talk about this and that. But if you're not even aware of yourself, you don't even know the little things within you. You don't even know yourself of what to tackle or what not to tackle. So in the future, if you try to change a habit and you will always fail, it's because there's something in you that you haven't seen that's causing that fall. But if you're aware and you're continuously just being more aware as a human being, as an individual day by day, then you will start seeing all the components within you and why certain things do this. And then you'll realize why certain things might fail quickly or how to overcome building habits, right? Because the worst thing when it comes to building habits, from my personal experience, is when you try to build it and for some reason you just can't get it. There's just something holding it back. And you study about different kinds of habits, sure, but like if you're not aware of yourself, you don't know what you're working with. It's kind of like, here's all these resources, but like, how do I know what kind of resources do I want? Imagine if a house is like broken in some way, but you don't know what's broken. So habits is kind of like, here are all these materials, but you're like, why do I need paint? Why do I need steel beams? Because where is the actual problem in the house? It could be an electrical issue, right? Paint and steel beams isn't going to fix an electrical issue. And being aware works just like that. It's to simply look at yourself and then realize like, oh, maybe this isn't working as I expected it to. Or maybe this is something I would change. Or this is something I want to make better. Because you're not just full of bad habits, you're full of amazing habits too that you probably don't even realize. So be aware. From here on out, just every day, when you reach for something, just be aware of what you're doing. When all of a sudden something happens and you react, every time the mind reacts, just be aware of what the mind is doing. Why are you reacting? And when you do react, what are you reaching for? Or what do you do? What's the response? And with that, you will immediately start becoming a better version of yourself. It's that simple. You don't have to wait till get billions of dollars to be a better version of yourself. You can start it right now. And that's the beauty of the Self Betterment Project. You don't have to be a jillionaire. You don't have to have that perfect wife or husband. You don't have to have the car or the house. You can be that better version of yourself right now. Because all those other things is just the byproduct of your internal workings. And what we do here is just focus on our internal workings. So you could just be your better version of yourself literally right now. And that's the most amazing thing that I have learned just throughout my entire life dealing with self-betterment. Life isn't hard, but you have to be aware. Be aware of yourself. And with that, I will take my leave. And with that, I hope you found some sort of valuable information from me, or at least maybe I was able to tap into your brain and say, hey, maybe there's something better you could do. It's not a lot of work, but maybe I have encouraged you. And with all that said, I hope you guys take care, stay safe, and stay goddamn beautiful. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.